FCA has meant a great deal to me, and when Tim asked me 11 years ago to help with FCA, I didn't know what I was getting into, and I tell you what a blessing it has been in my life. I can't wait for FCA Camp every year. I love to pour into the kids, and then when Tom asked me to do the mega camp and go up to Greeley, man, I was able to take my son. And for those of you who have donated sponsorship money for athletes to go up there, thank you. You have changed the lives of so many of my players who were able to attend that camp, and they asked Jesus Christ into their life. Amen. Okay, so game changer. I've been asked a lot of questions as a coach, and so I've tried to think, how can I input God into a lot of these questions that people ask? And one question that I get asked, and it's something that is South High School girls basketball is just known for, how do you get your kids to play so hard? You know, we have 5'0" going against 6' girls up in Denver. How do you get your athletes to play so hard? And coaches aren't ready for my answer. I tell them, you love them and you pray with them. And it takes them back because they're ready for drills. They're ready for, what do? You don't run them to death? Nope. I pray with them and I love them. And I can remember the time just like that. We're getting ready to play, and it's just at the event center. We're getting ready to play East, I think. We're coming out. And I'm praying. And I knew all of the girls alphabetically by order. And I remember starting with Amanda, and I started praying for each and every one of them. And when I opened my eyes, they all were looking at me like, what in the world? And I said, you guys don't think I pray for you every night before I go to bed? And I don't want to leave anyone out, so I have to put you in alphabetical order. And they couldn't believe it. And I think sometimes we say, we'll pray for you, but at that moment, they truly knew that their coach prayed for them every single night. Another incident is a girl had tore her ACL twice, and she came into the locker room. We didn't know what her MRI said, and she came in and said, Coach, I did it again, just crying. And I tried to leave. We're heading to a game, and she grabs me by the hand and says, Coach, pray with me. And we stayed in the locker room for another 5 minutes and just prayed. And so game changers can be anybody out there. Number one, love. Love and pray with the people around you. Another question that gets asked, of course, right after that is, how do you get away with that in public education? How do you get away with it? I mean, you know, all of the things going on now that you can't pray. Here's my answer. You get rid of fear and you trust God. You get rid of fear and you trust God. Proverbs 3:5-6, and everyone knows it. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. I came to the fact that if they're going to fire me because I pray with my girls, please put me on the front page and make it known that I was fired for praying. And it must be God's plan, and may God get His glory. And I think when I put that aside, it didn't matter anymore. That was a big, big aha in my life. And the last thing is to trust in Him, right? I said, do not fear and trust in the Lord. And I think for all of us, human nature, this is so hard. We're too self-sufficient. Doggone it, we can find the answers on the internet. We can get on and we know what's best. We try to get out of the situations instead of leaning on God. And we ignore God in times, sometimes we don't even know it. And so I am too self-sufficient at times. And I know that I need to get better at trusting in God. I also don't trust in God when I'm quick to call on others. How many of us will call our friend or call someone else for advice before going to the Lord in prayer? And I have done this so many times. And I urge you to, before you make any decision and before you go to anybody else, as wise as they may be, even going to Pastor Steve, go to the Lord first and call upon him. Another reason we don't trust God is we feel distant from God at times. We all have sinned. Sometimes we're ashamed of that sin and we think God's going to punish us. And we run away from it. We run away from him instead of growing closer to him. And the last thing is we worry. Worry is a sign of distrust. And I heard a pastor say once, is your worry list longer than your prayer list? And mine is, many times. Is your worry list longer than your prayer list? Let me tell you, there are a lot of things in this world to worry about. Your finances, big games, relationships, health, news. You don't know why all of these things are about, but you know what? God, I want to say, God, help me trust you, lean on you, and listen to you. So we have to pray for people and to love on them. And we have do not fear, trust in the Lord. And the very last question that I came up with is, how do you know, this was a big one for me, hey coach, how do you know it's your time to move on? How do you know that you need to change your journey and your path and seek another way? This is a funny little story, but we're getting ready to play Valor Christian at South. And Valor Christian has one of the greatest coaches in Jessica Caldwell. And Jess and I are great friends. And we sat up in the stands before the game talking about how she just walked away. She has 3 little ones, and she has not seen her little boy in about 3 days. And she had to kiss him and get on a bus and get down here to play. And she's crying, and I'm crying. And I'm saying how I don't feel like I'm the best mom, and I'm always gone. And we both are just crying in the stands. We look up at the clock. Our JV game is done. We missed our pregame. We're in the stands crying over what we're supposed to do with our life, and our kids are waiting for us, and we're getting ready to play one of the biggest games that we have that year in Valor Christian, and there's no head coach. We're both crying. So we go into the locker room, we're drying off our tears, and we send them out with no pregame, and I have to laugh because 30 minutes later, during the game, Jessica's yelling at the official to give me a technical because my pearl bracelet fell and broke all over the floor, you know. I do understand that I punched the air, you know, I was mad, and I think I threw down my marker, but the pearl bracelet broke, and it makes me laugh because her and I are in the stands crying 30 minutes before, and now we're yelling at getting a technical, right? So it tells you that Christian coaches can definitely be competitive, and we were back then. The reason why I told you that story was because God put us together at that moment to help strengthen us because he knew that we needed each other. We were both coaches, we're both mothers, we're both wives. We needed each other at that time. How do you seek God's purpose? How do you seek God's purpose in your life? I heard this, and it says, your purpose is already complete. He has already spoken it. It is so, it is done, and it is good. Our job is to step into it. But God has already gone ahead of it. He's already done it. He's already fashioned it. He has already formed it. Now all we have to do is align into his purpose that he has already spoken concerning our life. Jeremiah 29:11 says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. God is our biggest fan. So our lesson is, do not be afraid to be a game changer. I don't care if you're retired, you've got the boys club going to the golf course or wherever you're going, whether you're at school, whether you're in a club, whether you're at work, you can be a game changer. The bottom line is love and pray, conquer fear, and trust in him, and understand God's purpose and will for your life, and you seek after that. You will not only be a game changer, but you will get to play in God's game, and that's truly all that matters. So thank you for allowing me to come up and speak tonight. Have a good night.